Hi, my name is Brendan McDaniel, and I'm a third-year student here at Ohio State. Today I'll be discussing what has been happening in the stock market recently, and more notably back in late January, when a popular group on Reddit called the Wall Street Bets decided they would destroy the big hedge funds who make the majority of their money by betting on companies such as GameStop, AMC, and BlackBerry to go down in share value. And then they accomplished this by buying massive amounts of shares for these companies and therefore skyrocketing the stock price by nearly 2,000%, using GameStop as an example, which was obviously their main target for the subscribers of Wall Street Bets. This was an example on a huge scale that victories can be won in numbers and not just in sheer power. Now, whether you know everything about the stock market or you're maybe just getting into it like myself, it's important that you at the very least understand the basics of what's happening, and even you understand the countermeasures that were put into effect to make sure this won't happen again. And by the end of my discussion, you'll understand what the stock market is. You'll know why what happened was so revolutionary and game-changing, and hopefully I will have inspired you to maybe get into trading yourself. All right, so first I want to start by explaining how the stock market works and where GameStop fits into that. A stock is an investment into a company, and that investment you make has potential to either go up or to go down. Typically, the price that you see a company's shares at is a good indication of how good that company is doing. For example, before the sudden influx of buyers in GameStop, the company had not seen their stock price over $30 per share in almost 5 years, and it had been declining more and more since. As these classic brick and mortar stores were being taken over by online retailers such as Amazon. But traditionally speaking, this makes sense because, as I mentioned earlier, the stock price is supposed to directly correlate with the business of a company. This was simply not the case, as we saw all these dying companies suddenly hit all-time highs and break records, such as GameStop hitting a staggering high of $483 per share after slowly dwindling down over the years. Stephanie Rule from CSNBC compares what is happening now to the internet bubble in 1999, where people were buying basically any stock that ended in a .com at the end of it, until they realized that a lot of those companies weren't doing very good, and then that so-called bubble burst, and that all the new investors that have begun trading have little to no knowledge of the market and could see massive amounts of loss. This is what I meant when I said it has potential. It all really just depends on if you do your research before investing. Now, I want to talk about what actions were taken to put a stop to all of this. After Robinhood saw a huge amount of loss from the powerful people who are usually the ones who profit from the demise of these other companies, they restricted GameStop and AMC from being able to be traded for a few days, which obviously nobody liked, especially if you were involved like myself. Ever since this happened, Robinhood has been hit by over 30 class action lawsuits because they had violated many antitrust laws by not allowing shareholders to sell the shares they had or be able to buy more, thereby costing millions of platform users to lose substantial amounts of money. And after being hit by all of this, they then allowed trading once again. However, they restricted trading to a certain amount of shares per user, and over the last month. But since then, it has been lifted, and after all the hype had died. Luckily for me, though, I only put in a small amount that I was comfortable losing because I didn't want to basically bank my entire future on it, like a lot of people did. But regardless of everything that has happened, this is all new and this has never been seen before. And while most see this as something horrible or great, depending on which side of it you were on, it has been a learning experience for everyone. And if this were to ever happen again, I would like to think more of us would be more prepared and be a lot more cautious. Lastly, I just want to conclude by telling you how investing in the stock market has helped me and how it can potentially help you too. First off, the first rule of investing: never take investment advice from anyone else. It can hurt you as the investor, and you also don't want to feel liable for others' losses. Like, if you give advice to one of your friends or family. I only began investing maybe a little under a year ago, and since then I've greatly improved my portfolio and have even began buying and selling cryptocurrency, but that's a topic for another day. And when it comes to buying and selling shares of stocks, there's a lot of different ways you can a lot of different ways to know what you want to do. First and most important is to always do your research so you know what direction a company is going and what they plan to do or implement in the future. In my case, I've gone what many would say is the safe way in investing, and that's in S&P 500 index funds, such as Vanguard or SPY. Basically, if you own shares in these, you own a portion of all the Fortune 500 companies, and the price directly reflects the stock market as a whole. These are a lot less risky than owning shares in just one company and are a great way to consistently make profit over a long period of time. However, back in March of last year when Corona first started, the whole market crashed and is shown in the huge dip from one of these stocks. For example, I was invested in Vanguard at the time and it took a huge dip. But this doesn't happen often, and otherwise it's still a very good long-term investment. But don't take my advice. Do some research and look into it yourself. Thank you for listening to my presentation today, and I hope I was able to inform you about the importance of investing as well as catch you up on some current events. And I hope that you look into trading for yourself, as it's a great way to save up some extra money and even save up money to retire like we all dream about. Happy trading.